A young man wakes up in the middle of a graveyard at night, in a half-bent position, as if climbing out of a grave. A staggering thought resounds in his mind. Has he been reborn? Once on the surface, he feels the stiffness of his new body and jokes about its weakness. It seems the previous owner clearly didn't care about nutrition. Before that, he was sitting in his home and downloaded a game called Plants vs. Zombies Synthetic Version. However, as soon as he opened the program, the computer screen went blank and he lost consciousness. Now he looks at the surrounding landscape, a gloomy forest of graves, and tries to realize where he's ended up. Is this still his world, or is it something else entirely? It dawns on him that he should have supported the developers instead of playing the pirated version. Perhaps that was the reason for his mysterious arrival here. Soon, he notices a gravestone with his name engraved on it, Zhang Wei's grave. Realization descends upon him. His new body belongs to this man. Flashbacks pop up in his mind, confirming the hunch. He is indeed Zhang Wei now, and this is his own grave. As he tries to make sense of the situation, he realizes that the previous owner of the body was already dead when the transmigration occurred. If he had arrived earlier, he might have been able to synchronize with the body better. Shrugging, he decides that since he's alive now, he should just bury the grave. It's bad luck to leave it open. Suddenly, a green glow appears in front of him, projecting holographic screens. The traveler system has finally activated. His eyes are wide open, expressing surprise and horror. A green light is reflected in the young man's eyes, and his face is contorted with shock. A game-like interface appears on the screen. He sees a 54-cell manner layout and is confused that it looks like a real game interface. The interface prompts him to open the plant guide. He decides to follow the instructions, hoping to understand what is happening. Once in a new window, he sees information about a plant that turns out to be a spiritual sunflower. He is amazed. This is clearly no ordinary game. He studies the properties of the spirit sunflower, which turns out to produce spirit energy. After realizing that it has a direct relation to his new world, he begins to realize that he has entered the world of cultivators. He also discovers that the pea now has a new, strange appearance and abilities. This plant now has powerful combat characteristics, further confirming that he has found himself in an unusual world. He begins to ponder if plants can be improved and wonders if that would lead to evolution into something more powerful, like the Bean Emperor. He realizes that he has entered the world of immortal cultivators, where the main value is spirit energy. Now, by managing a manor, he can cultivate plants that produce spirit energy every day. He joyfully discovers that he can receive 55 units of spirit energy daily. This seems to him to be a real stroke of luck and a chance for success in this new world. Ordering the plant to grow, he watches as a new sunflower emerges from the ground, which will now help him on his journey. Footsteps sound in the distance, and the young man tenses. He wasn't sure who was approaching, but he felt uneasy. Realizing that his return to life must not be revealed, he rushes to escape. However, his body is not yet accustomed to the movements, so he decides to hide. There is crying in the distance, someone begging for something, and objects are scattered around. The atmosphere becomes even more ominous. A girl in mourning clothes appears, with tears in her eyes. She begs to be allowed to do one last thing for her brother. A man with a sword stands before her, demanding that she throw the ritual papers into the pit and he burn the body with immortal fire. The girl pleads in desperation to leave her brother's body untouched, reminding the man that they were best friends. The young man lurks in the grave, watching what is happening. He realizes that the situation is becoming more and more tense. A memory pops into his mind. It's his younger sister, Zhang Qian. The former body master died while gathering herbs to pay for her training. The second man is Lin Hao, their countryman who passed the Cultivator Sect exam. He is now using Zhang Wei's death to pressure Zhang Qian. The girl says sorrowfully that her brother never married because he always took care of her. She begs him to come back to her, even if as a ghost. Lin Hao mockingly rebukes her for spending the silver given to her on these things. He then declares that if she wants more money, she must serve him. Suddenly, the girl rushes towards the grave, which infuriates Lin Hao. He shouts, demanding an explanation. Lin Hao grabs the girl by the neck in a rage, screaming that she belongs to him. He can't believe that she dared to try to commit suicide. He slaps her face mercilessly, stating that she needs a lesson. The girl is unable to resist. She falls to the ground, wondering if her tormentor has lost any vestiges of humanity in the pursuit of power. Suddenly, there is a loud voice filled with rage. A young man with burning eyes bursts out of the grave. Lin Hao recoiled, crying out in horror that Zhang Wei was dead and couldn't be here. The girl, seeing her brother, cannot hold back her tears. She is happy that he has come back to her. However, Lin Hao refuses to believe his eyes. After all, he had personally checked Jiang Wei's body and knew that he was dead. He concludes that Jiang Wei has become a zombie while retaining his mind. Moreover, he remembers that if you harden such a body in molten iron, it will become invulnerable. Lin Hao starts laughing, calling him and his sister his lucky stars. He wants to make Zhang Qian his concubine and Zhang Wei his bodyguard. With those words, he pulls out his sword, stating that he will show Jiang Wei the new swordsmanship techniques he has learned. The girl rushes towards Lin Hao, begging her brother to flee. However, her opponent declares with cold fury that her brother has been dead for a long time and he will end the zombie right now. The man with the sword decides to act, but the young man says he hasn't hit him with his fists in a long time. The one scoffs, "You want to fight a cultivator with your fists?" The young man assesses the situation. Ling Hao has been training for half a year and has clearly become stronger. He, on the other hand, only possesses a single spiritual plant for now, but there might be other ways of strengthening in the system. There is no way to back down. After accepting the body of his former owner, he decides to fulfill his last wish and hopes that the system will provide him with some clues. Just then, he notices two sections, the plant guide and the zombie guide. He has just studied the former, but the latter remains a mystery. Looking over the information, he realizes that his current form is a regular zombie, practically useless except for not feeling pain. However, he has room for improvement. He can become a zombie brain guardian or an ironhead zombie, but all upgrades are blocked for now. In order to fight the cultivator, he urgently needs to advance further. Ling Hao wastes no time in unleashing a powerful attack on him. The young man realizes that the manual doesn't specify the conditions for evolution, but suddenly a hunch hits him. He looks through the system and guesses. The key to evolution is plants. Determined, he activates the system and forces the zombie to eat a spiritual sunflower. His body is immediately filled with powerful energy. He feels his level rise sharply and comes to the conclusion, yes, zombies are designed to devour plants. All of the flower's spiritual energy is transferred into his body. In the same instant, his strength soared to the great perfection level of the first stage of qi refining. Ling Hao was shocked. After all, he himself had spent half a year of training to only recently set foot on this path. How could a zombie break through his defenses? The young man grins, declaring that it is now his turn to attack. He rushes forward with a wild cry, ready to repay Ling Hao for his sister. The cultivator shouts in panic that he can't be killed, because he is immortal. But fear and shock take over, and he collapses, unconscious with terror. The young man is confused. He didn't mean to kill him. It seems that zombies in this world are so frightening that they can drive an enemy to death just by the sight of them. Suddenly the system says, "You have a new zombie. Type, normal zombie. Characteristics synchronized." Lin Hao, who he had just defeated, was now his subordinate zombie. The protagonist realizes that the zombie guide can automatically collect corpses. He enthusiastically ponders that if he finds a graveyard of gods and demons, it will be sheer luck. It turns out that the assembled zombies can synchronize their characteristics with the main zombie, which opens up huge possibilities. The system confirms that the main zombie has obtained Ling Hao's cultivation ability and has reached the great perfection level of the first stage of qi refining. He notices that his body has become much more flexible, assuming that this is due to his synchronization with Ling Hao, who had just died. Fully realizing the power of the system, he wonders which path of immortality to choose now. Making a decision, he sets out to find a place where he can hide, grow plants, and create new zombies. 3 days pass, and he and his sister are traveling along a forest trail, heading for Shenjia village, where they plan to stop for the night. He prods his sister, telling her that she is walking too slowly. However, her behavior seems concerned. The girl notices that he doesn't eat, drink, or get tired at all, which is not at all like her brother. He tries to convince her that this is just the final glow of sunset, and that his condition has even improved. However, her reaction, a cautious stepping back, makes it clear that she does not believe him. Jiang Wei recalls that when he woke up, he decided to play a joke on the girl by saying that he had only pretended to be dead. However, she didn't believe him and immediately retreated 5 steps away. To see if her brother is really her brother, the girl starts asking questions. When he gets confused, she backs away again, not believing him. She continues to test him by asking tricky questions. He answers another question about his neighbor's rise time incorrectly, and the girl disappointedly corrects him again. The girl reaches questions about childhood games, battle scars, and gifts that he clearly doesn't know the answer to. His face becomes increasingly battered, as if each wrong answer was physical torture. He realizes that this Jiang Wei really died a long time ago, Scientifically speaking, his brain cells had died, which meant that he could not inherit memories. The girl, watching him, hides embarrassedly behind a tree, her eyes full of doubt and worry. The protagonist comes to realize that the only thing he has inherited is perhaps a mission from a past life. He opens the system window and sees that Zhang Wei was most concerned about his sister before she died. His task is to find her a safe place to live. The girl, clenching her fists, says she knows her brother is dead and asks not to be deceived. She begs him not to touch her brother's body, to let her bury him in peace, her eyes full of tears. The young man realizes that Zhang Wei was incredibly happy to have such a caring sister. He admits that he is no longer her brother and doesn't know who he is now, but assures her that he will make her happy since that was Zhang Wei's last wish. The girl, not holding back her emotions, rushes to him and begs him to take her to her brother. The young man reflects on his condition. His body remains warm and flexible, but he no longer feels tired, hungry, or sleepy. At the same time, he wants to cry, but cannot. The girl finally calms down, finding some comfort in his words. They arrive in the village of Shenjia. He realizes that it is impossible for him to return to his old village because Zhang Wei is officially considered dead and his house has long been deserted. To convince the village elder that he is an immortal cultivator, the young man uses his strength and breaks through the wall with a single blow. Later, however, he has to work hard to rebuild what was destroyed. The village chief agrees to adopt the girl, formally making her his daughter, thanks to money found from Lin Hao. When she falls asleep, the young man is relieved that his mission is complete and watches her with a warm smile. Zhang Wei says with a smile that the road to immortality is long, but one day when it becomes famous, will definitely come back for her. A holographic image of the young man in the equip interface appears on the screen, indicating that his body can be equipped. He decides to use Lin Hao's sword since he has nothing else at hand. After equipping, the system informs him that this sword only marginally enhances his body's defenses, much to his disappointment. 3 days pass. He is happy to realize that he has learned a lot in the 6 days since his arrival in this world. He summarizes. He has planted 5 rows of spiritual sunflowers during this time and will receive 32 units of spiritual energy by midnight of the 7th day. At the appointed moment, it gathers energy that transforms into green swirls. Thinking about the future, he decides to plant different kinds of plants that will help him in battle and defense. He is also going to strengthen his zombies so that they can consume spiritual sunflowers and become stronger. His daily energy gain is now 31 units. With his current strength, he is able to withstand blows at the 5th level of Qi tempering, as well as set up sweet potato mines that deal damage. He now feels truly strong and is ready to complete the mission left behind by Lin Hao when he was alive. The hero says with a smile that his mission after death is actually his rebirth. A system with tasks flashes up in front of him, including making trouble for Zhang Wei, returning the collected herbs, and avoiding the zombie wave. The hero is shocked by what he sees. He ponders what a zombie wave is, admitting that he doesn't understand this world very well. He decides to find the Jade Source Sect first, and then make further plans. He examines the flashing object, assuming it is a tool for navigating within the cult. Pointing the device in different directions, he notices that it flashes more strongly in one direction, which probably indicates a path. At this moment, he activates his energy and changes with Lin Hao's body, becoming a zombie Lin Hao. Soon he hears someone yelling that 2-headed wolfhounds are proving to be incredibly tenacious and hard to kill. In the distance, he notices a girl surrounded by monsters. She asks him to wait, but admits that she has almost no spiritual energy left. The 2 sect girls held their defenses, discussing that they could use the Jade Sword technique 3 more times, hoping for help from the Marshall brothers. The hero realizes that one of them is Ling Hao's older sister, which means he has a chance to save them and earn the sect's trust. Confident in his abilities, he is ready to enter the battle. The protagonist rushes to the aid of the 2 girls, yelling that help is already here. Unexpectedly, the system informs him that there are materials that can be used to be absorbed by the plants. The hero is surprised and agrees to collect them. He hurriedly tells the older sisters to wait as he wants to study the instructions first, causing them to be perplexed. The girls are furious, accusing Lin Hao of daring to bully them. They look threatening. The young man activates the absorption function and decides to use the spiritual sunflower. The spiritual sunflower begins to transform, absorbing the power of the 2-headed wolfhound. Evolution results in a new species, spiritual twin sunflowers, that doubles the production of spiritual energy. The hero is shocked to realize that his system allows for the synthesis of creatures. He realizes that through the absorption of the 2-headed wolfhound and the spiritual sunflower, a new, more powerful version has emerged. As he calculates the result, he notices that 2 wolfhounds have died, 6 are still alive, and thanks to the new improvement, the efficiency of spiritual sunflower production is now twice as high. A young man with burning eyes rushes into the fight, assuring the girls that they cannot be afraid. He is already rushing to help. He deftly grabs the 2-headed wolf by the necks, holding it in a stranglehold, but the girl warns him to be careful. After the fight, he nonchalantly asks if the girls would mind leaving him all the bodies of the defeated monsters, to which they agree, albeit a little confused. The girls are worried about the young man, but he reassures them, assuring them that he can cope with these lousy creatures. However, they soon notice that his movements have become erratic and uncoordinated, which causes them concern. He continues to fight with his bare hands, yelling loudly and throwing punches, which looks pretty weird. One of the girls is perplexed, as she thinks he is fighting a bloody battle for them, but her companion clearly notices something amiss. The blonde begins to regret how badly she treated him, because at the most critical moment he did not run away, unlike the rest of the Battle Brothers. She, clasping her hands in supplication, mentally promises to fulfill a certain promise if the young man returns to the sect unharmed. Meanwhile, he is amazed at his strength, claiming that his attacks are now 12 times stronger, and with one blow he can take off the head of a 2-headed wolf. Ling Hao smilingly killed the last wolf cub and happily declared that the 9th enemy had fallen. This was the end of the fight. His face is covered in blood, but he only smiles confidently and offers the girls to return to the cult. They look scared. However, looking at their reactions, he is alarmed and asks why they are looking at him like that. Are there new monsters? The girls are shocked to see him and ask him to stop because he has already done enough. A disturbing thought arises in Lin Hao's mind. Did he really give himself away? Could it be that cultivators recognize each other by breathing? Or were they alerted by the fact that he didn't use Sect techniques? He realizes that his secret about time travel is the most important one, but now he is faced with the question, will he have to kill them to hide the truth? But he has read too many novels to take such a step. One of the girls points out his condition worriedly, warning that if he doesn't treat his wound, he could die. Zhao Wei as Lin Hao looks puzzled, but next to him, one of the 2-headed wolfmen suddenly appears beside him, biting his hand. The young man shakes the wolfhound's head slightly, looking thoughtful, but the beast remains motionless. That's when panic sharply distorts his face. He realizes that zombies don't feel pain. All this time he thought they were hard to kill because of their tough bodies, but in fact they just don't feel damage. On top of that, he realizes another detail. Since he's a zombie, he can't feel not only pain, but pleasure. LOL. The young man excuses himself that the path to immortality requires insensitivity, and he was just ahead of the others. The girls worryingly ask if he is alright. He decides to remove the corpses of the 2-headed dogs first. The girls remind him that these are his spoils of war, and it is better to store them in a spatial bag so as not to attract new monsters. The young man with a satisfied smile activates the interface and commands to put all the monsters in the manor. His virtual farm with many plants appears on the screen. He is happy that he gets 9 units of spiritual energy every day, and with a chuckle, wonders if these monsters have friends or relatives. The girl calls him by name, and he asks in surprise if they're going back to the cult yet. One of them confesses that they have been fighting for a long time. All the elixirs have run out, and she is hungry. The other remarks that the meat of a killed dog must be of good quality. The young man is horrified by their offer and immediately refuses. The girls try to justify themselves, saying they just need to fill their stomachs. He firmly states that he is not hungry, but they have already prepared bear meat as a treat. They display the carcass of a huge bear shrouded in a golden glow, claiming that this piece is enough to taste its flavor. The hero looks at the storage pouch in surprise, realizing that it is a dimensional pouch, but he doesn't know how to open it. He activates the system, and a notification appears that plant absorption materials have been found on his estate. He is asked to collect them. The girls watch in amazement as their prey disappears in front of them. They are shocked and do not understand what is happening. They scream in horror, asking where the bear paw they were just holding has disappeared to. They accuse the hero of going too far, but he makes a panicked excuse, saying his hands work too fast. Suddenly, something strange catches their attention. All 3 turn around anxiously. A rotten hand bursts out of the ground, and the girls bounce away in panic. They realize it's a wave of zombies. The girl orders an urgent run back to the Sect's gathering place and takes cover in a protective formation. The ground splits open, and a multitude of dead men's hands begin to climb out, threatening to surround them. The young man himself turned his attention to the top. Looking up, he notices a figure floating in the sky in the sunlight, It was a girl with 2 braids. Speaking of which, why is she wearing so few clothes? There, that's better. The main character is amazed by the sight of a mysterious woman floating in the air. His eyes are full of admiration, and he thinks she's incredibly cool, but he also shows her an unkind gesture. He is stunned by the woman's disappearance, while panic sets in around him. The girls scream in fear at the approaching zombie horde. One of the girls falls, and the dead man reaches for her, grabbing her leg. The protagonist rushes to her aid, confidently declaring that he will save her. He activates the system in an attempt to merge Bean Brother with the bear's power, but the transformation proves incomplete. However, it is enough, and the suddenly reanimated dead man is frightened. The protagonist uses the power of the bear, increasing his power and directing his attack. He's confident in his strength, but the zombie won't let go of the girl's leg, creating a new problem. The girl, to her horror, flies up into the sky, desperately begging for rescue. At the last moment, the protagonist catches her in his arms, kicking away zombies in the process. The girl screams in panic, warning Lin Hao that there are zombies behind him. They begin to run away, realizing they are surrounded, and urgently look for a way to break through. The blonde says that while she was in the air, she noticed a safe direction where there were no zombies. The protagonist confidently commands to run in the indicated direction, showing his fighting spirit. He comes face to face with the zombie, threateningly stating that if he continues to stare, he will get hit. Wasting no time, he delivers a powerful kick with his foot, knocking a zombie to the ground and attacking another at the same time. 3 hours later, the group comes to their senses, satisfied that they were able to get out without a scratch. The girls thanked Ling Hao for his strength, suspecting that he was practicing body hardening. The older sister begins to hint at gratitude as she approaches him, causing him to have mixed emotions. Lin Hao realizes that if he shows too much strength, his zombie identity will be revealed, making him nervous. A young man complains of pains all over his body and feels a strange influence on his lower body. He decides to lie down so as not to be influenced by the evil energy that rages within him. However, his behavior seems comical. The girls look at him unhappily, mentally rebuking him for his manner of refusal. He analyzes the memory fragments left behind by Ling Hao and realizes that the wave of zombies was caused by the fall of a heavenly lord who surpassed the boundaries of tribulation. However, he admits that he does not have enough knowledge of cultivation realms, training methods, and heavenly treasures, which might make it difficult for him to develop. The girls are excited to see a new character who calls them little sisters and expresses joy that they were able to escape to safety. They are ecstatic because Big Brother Wang, whom they consider to be a third-level chi refining genius, has returned. They are confident that they can safely return to the sect with him. However, the young man looks at the situation with skepticism because he left for reinforcements, but for some reason returned alone. Brother Wang smiles and greets Lin Hao with a mysterious intonation, noting that it is a pleasure to meet him. Then his face changes, and he says threateningly that he has no trouble killing one more person. The girl is horrified and asks why he is saying that. He indifferently declares that he is going to take all the healing herbs they have collected to use as bribes. 3 days later, when he is accepted into the inner sect, he will be able to get rid of his status as an outer disciple. His obsession with status becomes obvious. He cries out that the inner sect gives the best resources, techniques, and training from the elders, through which immortality can be gained. He attacks the girls, grabbing them by the throat, and they desperately beg him to stop, because without these herbs, they will all be kicked out of the cult. The protagonist remains calm and even mockingly notes that the breakthrough has literally come to his door. He uses his system and causes a spiritual sunflower. The others look at him in confusion, not realizing what he's doing. Senior Brother Wang is amazed. The energetic aura of this flower overflows all around. It is a priceless treasure. His greed takes over, and he rushes to the hero, demanding to give him the flower because it will help him get into the inner sect. However, the hero remains unperturbed and, chewing on a flower, offers the man a taste. The one in a rage demands to give him the plant, but the hero simply walks away, ignoring him. Wang starts chasing Zhang in a frenzy while the girls watch the chaos. The girls discuss what happened, marveling at what Big Brother Wang did. One of them reminds them that Lin Hao has saved them again, pointing in the direction where the zombie horde is raging. They decide to return to the sect, confident that Lin Hao is strong enough to survive. Wang angrily looks around the night forest, shouting out the question, "Where did you disappear to?" At that moment, a zombie with a creepy smile appears in front of him, mockingly saying that he is about to attack. Our guy in Zhang Wei's body ponders that he took on this appearance on purpose so Wang wouldn't recognize him. Suddenly, he realizes that the other zombies don't attack him, considering him their own. Wang activates his sword technique, Jade Sword, Sword Light, illuminating the darkness with a powerful stream of energy. Zhang is amazed when he sees it. He notes that it's safe to walk around with such a sword even at night, but wonders how much energy this technique consumes. Wang rushes forward with fury, destroying the zombies with a powerful sword strike shining with blue light. The young man watching the scene comments with a cold expression that Wang is indeed fierce. Wang happily shouts that he has destroyed all the zombies and urges Lin Hao to come out, assuring him that it's safe now. However, the situation takes an unexpected turn. A whole horde of zombies jump out of the darkness surrounding them. Lin Hao finds himself in the middle of lying on the ground, and Wang faces a new threat. Zhang, despite his audacity, prefers to avoid immediate conflict, making the excuse that he's just taking care of his body rather than fearing the enemy. Big brother Wang notices that something is wrong. Ling Hao has disappeared after entering the forest. Realizing the threat, he activates the quick step technique to avoid being surrounded. He warns himself not to let his enemies surround him, deciding to stay in the open to move quickly. He plans to wait for a reaction for a time equal to 1 stick of incense, about 30 minutes, and if nothing changes, he will retreat. Anger flares up in him as he furiously curses Ling Hao, accusing him of not giving him the item he needed willingly. He dreams that if he transfers this spiritual plant to the alchemy pavilion, he will be able to rise higher in status. Even being an ordinary worker is better than being killed by a zombie invasion. But then, he feels the appearance of a powerful energy and realizes that the source of the spiritual aura is right behind him. Zhang smirks, reasoning that the best defense is offense. He is going to use his special technique and test how his enemy will deal with his 12 Bean Brothers. He activates his ability by releasing small glowing spheres, and his opponent reacts instantly by noticing them. The blonde-haired man is excited to see the spirit plant in front of him, not realizing that it is a trap. He smugly thinks that Ling Hao either chickened out or was killed by a zombie, leaving the plant here. Triumphantly, he announces that it now belongs to him. The man quickly climbs up the tree, clutching the spirit plant in his hands. But suddenly, his face smashes into the barrel with force, and sparks erupt from the impact. Losing his balance, he tumbles downward, spinning in the air and waving his arms frantically. Ling Hao scornfully accuses him of treachery, hypocrisy, and lust for murder for his own gain, calling him a selfish capitalist. Continuing to mock, Zhang states that if one strives for immortality but does not develop his heart, his instructions will never be wrong. The man had already prepared to fight back, but suddenly realizes that he is seriously wounded, and then that he is dead at all. Zhang is shocked at what has happened. Suddenly, an interface appears in front of him, offering to collect the corpse. He involuntarily wonders if he is too strong. The system identifies the body as Wang Tianliang, an ordinary zombie with an inferior fire spirit root and a 3rd-level qi tempering stage. His second mission cannot be completed, for the dead can no longer die. Zhang looks at the stuffed storage bag with a satisfied smile, calling it his biggest trophy. He is going through his loot, spiritual stones, scrolls with the techniques of the Jade Source Sect, but his attention is drawn to a strange odor that seems unusual to him. The protagonist is delighted with his find. He has the rest of the wild bear in his hands, which will allow him to complete the synthesis of his Bean Brother. He also finds herbs with spiritual energy, which are likely mission objectives. On top of that, he discovers a map. After weighing his resources, the young man realizes that he has enough spiritual energy, skills, and even a map, and his zombie body is free of hunger, thirst, and fatigue. He decides to get lost among the zombies and cultivate until he reaches the level he needs. After carefully studying the map, he notices a place marked on it, the Cave of the Two-Headed Wolves, deciding to go there. Looking around, he realizes it's not that far away. Soon he reaches a massive cave entrance surrounded by dense vegetation. Before entering the cave, he decides to try a piece of spiritual sunflower, but notices that it begins to glow. After realizing his mistake, he realizes that he took the wrong item. Suddenly his gaze comes across a set of glowing eyes watching him from the darkness. Finding himself surrounded by aggressive two-headed wolves, he nervously tries to defuse the situation, but realizes that the situation is serious. The hero decides to test the wolves' reaction to his object by bringing it near them. They start to follow the burning stick, dogs. The protagonist, with his hand raised, tries to subdue the two-headed wolves, but one of them attacks sharply, releasing a clawed paw. He realizes the truth. The man he suspected was indeed the villain who lured the wolves to kill the older sisters for his own gain. In a rage, the hero uses a powerful technique, chopping up wolves with glowing blades. He shouts out, "Bastard!" Hours pass. The entrance to the cave remains silent. Fog drifts in at the entrance. The character sits in the cave in front of the interface, looking at his 5 rows of spiritual sunflowers, now upgraded to double spiritual sunflowers. He feels how much stronger he has become. However, he has a new problem. How do I start cultivating? I don't even understand the basic method. The system interface reports that his dual spiritual sunflowers produce 60 units of spiritual energy per day, plus 1 unit naturally, totaling 61 units. More and more energy is required to advance to the next level. He realizes that he has already eaten 5 spiritual sunflowers. His spiritual energy has advanced to the 3rd level, but he has yet to master cultivation techniques to use his power to its fullest. To begin the path to immortality, he must first activate his spiritual roots. The higher their quality, the stronger the perception and potential for cultivation. He recalls that there are special immortal talents and divine bodies. Their appearance is accompanied by celestial visions, and such people become masters of great sects. As for the protagonist, he can synchronize the collected templates with Zhang Wei's body. The body itself could be cultivated, and that was its biggest flaw. The protagonist realizes that his biggest problem is not only his inability to cultivate, but that he is so dead that even the zombies take him for their own. If he is spotted by powerful people, it could end badly for him. Horrified, he realizes that perhaps because he has been resurrected, he may be turned into powder and used as an aphrodisiac. He recalls that elder brother Wang sought ways to improve his abilities because of his weak spiritual roots. These methods included root replacement, taking over someone else's body, blood exchange, and bone marrow purification pills. There were also legendary magic medicines and other methods of enhancement that he believed could only be found in the sect. The protagonist thinks it would be great if he could grow his own miracle medicines, plant 54 trees and sell them. At that moment, the system shows the list of missions of Wang's older brother. It turns out that the second mission, to survive the zombie invasion, has already been completed, as he can safely be among them. He rejoices as he realizes that not all zombie bodies are useless, and now he can use the reward missions to solve his cultivation problem. The hero realizes that not only does he need to get the reward for the missions, but he also needs to find a way to make Zhang Wei's body suitable for cultivation. With confidence, he walks out of the cave, having made a decision to join the inner sect. 3 days go by. An unknown guy is found beaten and bleeding. Some guys taunt him, asking if he can repay his debt. One of them orders him to bring his father's axe to deal with him. The hero looks at the badly wounded man, noting that his wounds are too serious. He recalls an incident from his past world, when 3 villains killed a teenager in the same way. He is seething with rage. If there was nothing he could do in his former world, here he will make these scum pay for what they have done. One of the offenders shouts in panic that he will call his uncle if the hero is so bold. However, he wastes no time and delivers a devastating blow. The victim of the blow falls, closing in pain, bleeding. The others watch in horror. The hero stands, bloodied, with an intimidating look. One of the attackers is panting, his face twisted with fear, because it's not every day that your comrade gets his head blown off. The surviving enemy begins begging for mercy, stating that he has realized his mistake and wants to be released. However, the hero looks at him coldly, stating that he hasn't realized his mistake. He just realizes that he's about to die. The terrified opponent screams in panic, but he can't escape. The blow strikes without hesitation right on his knee. The hero examines the victim, holding a bloody weapon. He asks the wounded man a question. Will he still be able to hold on? But unfortunately, the wounded young man is unable to hold on. His eyes were empty, so Zhang Wei closes his eyes so that his soul can go in peace. The protagonist is sitting near a dead young man, and killed enemies are lying nearby. A message appears on the screen saying that dead bodies have been found and asking you to collect them. He chooses collect without hesitation, after which his body is transmigrated into the dead young man's body. The process is complete, and the body transforms into a new undead warrior. The system reports that the transformation is complete. The young man he picked up now has glowing green eyes, and a frightened opponent is standing in front of him. His name is Wang Fa. He realizes he needs a fresh, recently deceased corpse to reduce the likelihood of exposure. The protagonist reflects on 3 days when he could neither kill nor save those caught in a zombie infestation. Now he looks at one of his captives and says that beasts have no right to reason about morality. He decides to use the captive as bait. The map shows that the trail of a brutal bear of strength is nearby. A giant bear with burning eyes growls as it approaches the captive. One of the survivors cries out in panic for help, promising to serve as a slave in exchange for life. but he is already drawn to the beast. A dying man furiously utters that even if he becomes a ghost, he will not let go of the man sitting on top. The protagonist is sitting in a tree. In front of him, a holographic screen with information about the past owner of the body. It turns out that this boy was kind and gentle, and before his death did not leave any missions related to revenge. He attacks the huge bear sharply, bringing its head down with a powerful blow. After the battle, the system offers to collect the corpses, but the hero disdainfully refuses, letting them decompose in the ground. The scene changes abruptly. A beautiful girl in traditional dress stands in front of the large staircase leading up to the temple. She calls the next registrant. The girl looks down in surprise, clearly not expecting to see whoever is standing in front of her. The protagonist is now wearing different clothes and a strange mask, introducing himself as Wang Fa, a 13-year-old boy who has come to the Jade Source sect for the sake of immortality. Other newcomers crowd around, one by one approaching the check-in table, calling out their name. The girl explains that out of 100 ordinary people, only 3 can set foot on the path of cultivation, and those with outstanding abilities are extremely rare. She continues speaking, explaining that cultivation isn't just a natural talent. Purifying elixirs, creating artifacts, developing the mind, and comprehending the Tao are all equally valid paths. She then mentions that she's been cultivating for 3 years, and now she has a chance to show her power in front of the mortals. However, the unrest caused by the zombie invasion has disrupted all plans, and the elders still haven't returned. The woman announces that the next step is to pass 3 trials in the cult, urging her to pay attention to her spiritual shuttle. Suddenly, a huge bird flies over her, which catches the girl's attention. The person who arrived on top of this bird was Elder Ma. The girl introduces herself as Wang Yiling and greets Elder Ma. An old man with a gray beard frowns, stating that there are no people with outstanding talents among those being tested, and orders everyone to be kicked out. The woman tries to object, explaining that their branch of the sect is located in the mountains and has a shortage of people, with thousands of applicants arriving every year. The old man says that when the threat of the zombie wave is gone, all the troops will return to the main sect. The elder is not happy. He fears the sect will be filled with mediocre people and wonders who will be responsible. The old man activates a powerful martial art, creating a golden light around the students. The woman with a serious look calls this technique the secret art of foundation construction, Changkong sleeve. The old man points to a group of children, explaining that they are the ones who will be tested. A flying sword suddenly pierces the air, accompanied by words accusing Elder Ma of interfering too much in the sect's selection process. The voice wryly inquires how many benefits the latter has received from the mortal lords. Elder Ma parries the accusation, saying that the senior disciple of the Sword Pavilion, Jiang Ziyue, is not related to him, but is directly related to the Sword Pavilion itself. A girl in a light dress appears in the air, floating above the stage. She grinned and said that Elder Ma, who had temporarily taken over as head of the pavilion, had gotten too into character and had lost sight of his exalted status. The girl politely but defiantly greets her older sister, showing confidence in her words and actions. An angry Elder Ma reminds her that her master is the lord of the Sword Pavilion, but that doesn't give her the right to disrespect her elders. He warns her that he has no intention of giving in on this matter. With a slight chuckle, the girl replies that as a disciple of the Sword Pavilion, she is obligated to follow the righteous path and cannot ignore injustice, even if someone doesn't like it. She lands in front of Elder Ma, showing determination and superiority. The atmosphere between them heats up. The girl summons her sword, and it instantly rushes towards her hand. In response, Elder Ma activates a defense technique, preparing for a confrontation. Elder Ma, surrounded by a glow of powerful energy, declares that now, as her master, he will check how far her cultivation has progressed in the past half a year. In the background, the main character watches the unfolding battle with rapt attention, merrily eating a watermelon. He comments that it will be interesting to see how a direct disciple of the Sword Pavilion will fight against a corrupt elder. A young masked man offers a woman to comment on the upcoming fight, but she doesn't know what he's talking about. He explains that viewers are interested in details, cultivation level, fighters' skills, their past victories and defeats. The woman gets annoyed and scolds him for being disrespectful. Frightened, the young man quickly changes tactics and begins to praise Elder Ma's martial arts and her own talent in an attempt to make amends. The woman in blue says with a smile that people's fates are like clouds, changeable and unpredictable. She suggests that all students should be evaluated equally. Elder Ma recognizes her broad views, noting that her sect is indeed fortunate to have obtained such a great disciple. However, He has doubts about the masked youth, stating that he has a nasty temper and could turn into a dangerous demon if he becomes a cultivator. The woman in blue disagrees, stating that she wants to test the young man's abilities personally. The young man notes that she is very tall, almost as tall as his main body, and concludes that the cult must have good nutrition. The woman marvels at his potential, but notices that his pulse is too weak to detect hidden abilities. The young man's inner monologue confirms that this is due to his unique body. In an attempt to hide the truth, he makes up a ridiculous story about his birth and miraculous healing from a mysterious plant, but the woman is clearly unimpressed by his story. The old man watches carefully, noting that the young man seems to have had several unexpected encounters that made him think he was a son of destiny. Now he understands his audacity. The woman in the white dress looks at the young man and tells him to attack her so she can gauge his strength. The young man suddenly grabs hold of her clothes and performs a throw over her shoulder, shouting the technique loudly. The woman did not expect such a maneuver and blushes, and the next moment finds herself defeated. Terrified of the consequences, the young man quickly offers to test his strength on the old man instead. The old man silently watches the young man stretched out on the ground, while a bird hovers in the air above him, adding to the comicality of the moment. The old man says that if the latter puts all his strength into attacking and shows himself worthy, he might hire him as an apprentice. The young man hesitates, asking if he can really attack at full strength, for he is afraid of hurting the old man. The woman in white confidently states that the old man will not stoop to his level, and the other woman only smiles cheerfully. The young man finally makes up his mind, and mentally notes that he too wants to know the limit of his strength. He is ready to strike with all his might. A young man with a brightly glowing aura clenched his fist, resolutely declaring that with this blow he would pave his way to immortality.
Elder Ma, seeing the young man's strength, notes that despite his young age, he is quite strong. He wants to test his skills. Wang Yilin stops the young man, saying that there is no need for that. She explains that Elder Ma is too powerful, and attacking him could be seen as an act of defiance. She whispers to him that even if he joins the cult, there may be consequences waiting for him in the future. Zhang Zi assures the young man that the elder is smart. If he wants to join the sword cult, he will just have to apologize to Elder Ma. The young man thanks her for her concern, calling her big sister. The young man recalls that he has faced an influx of zombies before and knows how to deal with them. As a last resort, he can change his body. He wonders if the zombie invasion is related to his rebirth and speculates about the destruction it causes. He is also curious about a girl he met during the influx. Determined, the young man decides to put all his strength into this single blow, considering it his chance. Elder Ma, surrounded by a fiery aura, disdainfully remarks that the young man doesn't realize the extent of his capabilities. But suddenly, Elder Ma is startled. The girls are shocked by what they saw. They did not expect that the young man could deliver such a powerful blow. The young man attacks with force, shouting out, "My punch!" His fist is filled with energy, rushing towards the elder. The strike reaches its target, releasing a powerful momentum, but the elder remains in place without flinching. The destructive energy from the impact reverberates through the environment, cracks covering the ground. The moment the young man's attack reaches Elder Ma, some of the vessels begin to break, followed by an explosion of green energy. The girls are stunned. They realize that the strength of the young man's strike is comparable to a mid-level chi refining. Wang Yiling notices that the young man even destroyed the Taoist elder's weapon, making the strike even more impressive. The young man realizes that despite his success, the elder still remains unshaken. The wreckage of destroyed weapons lay on the ground, surrounded by sparking energy. Elder Ma coughs slightly, admitting that the punch wasn't bad, but hinting that it was due to the elixir he drank. But in reality, Elder Ma was actually terrified. He couldn't believe such a terrifying power. His jade weapon was almost ready, but it would take time to refine it. However, its strength would be enough for a 5th-level chi refining attack or an attack below the 6th level. Elder Ma continues to explain the rules of joining the cult, listing 3 tests. The first is qualification. The second is character. Zhang Zi interrupts, saying that the 3rd test is finding the essence of the Tao. She turns to the young man and offers to join the cult of the sword, clarifies that he is authorized to accept students and may become his mentor. The young man ponders, realizing that participating in the trials may reveal his secret. Wang Yilin hurries him, urging him to agree sooner rather than later. However, she is now in a rage, for she does not understand. How could a mortal brat be offered such an honor? It is recalled that Zhang Zi's talent is incredible and no one can compare to her. The girl doesn't understand why the young man is slow to answer. The moment of Zhang Zi's birth was remembered on that day. The sky lit up with violet light, and the purification of inner violet qi descended on the Dantian. In order to create a solid foundation, the elders made Jiangzi cultivate for 10 years, for they were afraid that it would break through to the golden core and meet the heavenly lord. Wang Yiling fiercely recalled how in Diantian, her elder sister had endured the desecration of divine lands and the harassment of vile men. After that, she decided to go to the barren mountain to deal with the tide of zombies. The other disciples are surprised. Qi purification is the very beginning stage, but why did it take her 10 years to perfect it? The girl irritably replies that they can't understand it, because there is a saying among mortals, for those who purify qi, the gods will never die. It is explained that the natural flow of qi has no properties. To transform it, spiritual roots of the 5 elements are needed to transform the energy into the 5 elements, and special spiritual roots give access to unique energy. Elder Sister's purple qi existed back in the distant past and will exist on earth and heaven forever, making it unique. A powerful warrior with a huge glowing sword is shown standing on top of a mountain amidst lightning bolts. He was his elder sister's master and perfected her weapon. This sword can reflect blows and kill the strongest enemies. Wang Yiling explains that by using the inner violet qi, a strong foundation can be created. Zhang Zi, meanwhile, promises to tell more about refinement later. Zhang Zi leans over to the young man with a smile and coquettishly asks, "What do you think, brother?" The young man ponders. If he follows his older sister, will he be able to join the cult of the sword? He is clearly interested in this option. The elder suddenly intervenes in the conversation, reminding him that Zhang Zi completely ignored him. He says that he too met this young man by pure chance. Zhang Zi explains that their meeting was predestined by fate, and so he will impart the fire qi absorption technique to the young man. This enrages Elder Ma, as even he himself would like to learn the technique. He also tells him about the spiritual absorption beast, which can turn magma into spiritual energy. This technique purifies qi, improves stamina, and speeds up refinement by 5 times. The young man rejoices, calling his older sister generous, for she has shared a high-level technique with him. Wang Yiling, gripped by envy, resents why the technique did not go to her. She realizes that her envy has weakened her Tao foundation. Elder Ma urges the young man to think and reminds him that his family has had a hard time. He promises that if he joins his cult, he will receive prosperity, magical artifacts, and conditions for improvement. However, the young man replies with indifference. It's no use. Then he asked what cult the elder was from. Wang Yiling is indignant, saying that anyone would have already thanked his elder sister, but the young man dares to bargain. Wang Yiling insists that he agrees more quickly, while Elder Ma finally admits that he is from the weapon purification cult. The young man is surprised and repeats the name of the cult. He then decides that he will make his choice, relying on Elder Ma's guidance. Wang Yiling is furious and demands an explanation as to why the young man chose Elder Ma. After all, he could have lived a happy life with her. His older sister is perplexed and insists that he explain his choice. A young man asks if his older sister will take the tech away from him if he tells the truth. Zhang Zi promises she won't do it, because she's not that mean. In that case, the young man explains the reason for the refusal. The elder sister will not be able to become his follower. You want more? Write the secret word, sword, in the comments. That way I'll know that you've watched it to the end, so you want a sequel. Don't forget to put 1000 likes and subscribe to the channel. See you later and bye-bye.